Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show and happy Friday morning. And this is the segment where we bring very special guest from the ERP enterprise software community. And today we have a very special guest. I mean, he has probably written, I don't know how many books. I cannot keep count anymore. He's still writing. So, Vinnie, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. I'm pretty sure everybody's probably going to know you.
Sam, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Good to see you. And I'm glad I'm not in your town. You told me you were in -20. I'm plus 60. So
lucky you.
I'm glad I'm here. But thank you for inviting me. And, my background is, I'm going to date myself, but a long time in software implementation, software analysis, software strategy, and so on. So I started my career at Pricewaterhouse, implementing systems around the world. Okay, and then when they told me to start a group, back when client-server software was starting to become the norm in the early 90s. So I had a small Gartner group within Pricewaterhouse, research firm.
Yeah.
And so I had that group for about 3 years. And I got a recruiting call from Gartner saying, if you want to do research, come to a real research. So I went to Gartner in 95. That's when ERP was really taking off. Gartner had coined the term.
Yeah.
And Y2K was big driver for a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
Sam, I'm bragging, but we literally have thousands of companies make those decisions.
Yeah.
So everything negative you hear about our ERP, you can blame Gartner for. Because it was so influential back then. Okay. But great experience for me, getting to see all the SAPs, Oracles, PeopleSoft, and all that.
Yeah.
Become the first wave of ERP providers. And because I come from Pricewaterhouse, they also had me do a lot of analysis on systems integrators.
Yeah.
Right? As you know, that ERP has been a big gravy train for systems integrators and outsourcers and so on. So I got a chance to look at both sides of the market. So to see the TCO of ERP fairly well. Left to do a startup, which was actually trying to digitize procurement of ERP projects. Back then, even now, people tend to buy services on a kind of relationship basis. They really weren't sophisticated about what skills to look for, what to look in resumes, what to look in solution centers, and so on. So we were trying to digitize all of that. Very ambitious. We ran out of money. So I started Deal Architect, my current firm, which doesn't have any software. I learned the hard way. Software is expensive to develop. And Deal Architect is three things. We are analysts, small analyst firm. We cover, Workday, Salesforce, obviously SAP still, Oracle still, and so on. The second thing we do is we are advisors. Kind of like you, we work with select group of customers on next-gen strategies, not just ERP. We look at automation futures and so on. And a third thing we do is we publish. So I have 2 blogs. I've written God knows how many blogs in the last 20 years. And I've written, to your question, 10 books.
So, 10 books. Oh my goodness.
Not all in my name. I've written 3 for executives or software companies, thought leadership books for software companies. So that's a quick introduction. Long one, actually, but not a quick one.
No, I mean, you have done a lot. So obviously and naturally, I guess it's probably going to be long. So before we do that, I think we announced one of the things on our LinkedIn post. So I want to make sure that audience is aware of that. So Vinnie has been very generous in giving his book. And I think we want to touch on your book as well. We are going to do the deep dive into that. Obviously, it's very interesting. Even though it is going to be fiction, but it does have very related experiences from our industries, whether you talk about ERP, enterprise software, AI, as well as the analyst industry. So if you are in the audience and if you are looking to receive the free gift that Vinnie is able to offer, so the only thing you need to do is you need to comment. You need to make comments, and the best comment, as per his liking, I guess, gets the free book. Vinnie, is that okay? Or
That's fine, Sam, but you decide who gets the prize.
um,
I'm going to ship it, but you decide.
changing the rules here because we had announced. Okay, so just comment, and we'll decide, I guess, together. We'll do a little voting here. I know that it's probably I don't know if you're going to have a tie. That's a possibility, but we'll see.
Or don't formalize it. Just decide. Whoever you like, you
Yeah,
decide.
we'll figure it out.
The best. Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Okay, Vinnie. So let's go back to the whole ERP industry. I know that you have seen a lot, and I know that there is a lot of negative connotation. And you were saying that Gartner should be blamed. I think everybody should be blamed, I guess. That's how ERP is. But right now in 2025, if you look at the same image is for SaaS as well. Satya Nadella, I think he has been claiming that SaaS is dead. This big headline news. So let's talk about that, I guess. And obviously you have the AI flavor too, right? So what is the future of ERP? What is the future of SaaS? Where are we going?
So, when I was at Gartner, we coined the term BOPs.
Yeah.
Bond, Oracle, PeopleSoft, SAP. And Eric Keller, who was the lead analyst for us, wrote a post that was very, very influential back then. He said, BOPs is a new bunch. Bunch used to be the name for Burroughs, Univac, NCR. Okay. And so people said, wow, BOPs has become the dominant force in the industry, right?
Yeah.
And when I left in 2000, it was still, one of the biggest spend categories for IT departments. So fairly influential in that role, right? By 2010, Wall Street was talking about FANG, right? Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. Now we're talking about the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
Right? The Magnificent Seven have a valuation of $16 trillion.
16 trillion, yeah.
Microsoft alone is $3 trillion. I mean, Satya, whatever he says, whatever you may think of him, the guy has generated $3 million in market valuation. Okay, we've got to do a little bit of this to the guy. Now, he doesn't really have a great application software product, right? So that's not what has created the value. It's his cloud infrastructure, and his very smart investment in OpenAI that has helped that valuation. Now, when you look at the ERP industry, and I'm trying to defend what he said. When you look at the ERP or CRM industry, even the top ones like Salesforce, SAP, and the big integrators like Accenture and so on, I mean, their valuations are not even in the billions, right? So it's been a slow process of losing market leadership.
Yeah.
If you compare it to 2000, BOPS was a big driver.
Yeah.
Now it's the Magnificent Seven. What happened in those 25, 30 years? I think ERP, to some extent, partly, I was talking to somebody who said ERP is like building a highway. You do it once, you keep improving it, right? You don't create highways just because it's fashionable or because there's breakthrough technology that makes a highway suddenly more efficient, right? We build new exits to highways and we extend them, but we rarely replace them with something else. So that's one thing that's worked against ERP. Once you put it in, once it's in, and if it's working, if it's not broken, don't replace it, right? So the replacement cycle has been very difficult for ERP. And in spite of all the talk of, hey, next generation fusion, and everybody has a next generation product. Other than SAP, only 10 or 15% of customers have decided to move to the next generation. Right? And you go, Why? Well, partly because of the highway concept. It's working, guys. Leave it in place,
Yeah.
right? Let sleeping dogs lie, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Partly it's also we haven't built enough exits
Yeah.
and we haven't built enough extensions,
Yeah.
right? I like to talk about vertical and geographic extensions.
Yeah.
Now, if you say verticals, you'll go, well, there are people who are automobile specialists or people who are aerospace specialists. I saw a note recently where you had your aerospace leaders and all that.
Yeah.
The reality is, when you look at the operational side of any industry,
Yeah.
there are books of record, right?
Yeah.
ERP is a good book of record for financials. It's a
Yeah.
book of record for materials management.
Yeah.
But every industry has unique books of record.
Yeah.
Insurance is claims,
Yeah.
insurance is policies,
Yeah.
healthcare, it's a patient record,
Yeah.
it's the pharmaceutical record master, and so on.
Yeah.
ERP doesn't cover 90% of the books of
Yeah.
record out there from a vertical perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's happened in verticals is in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
I've seen dramatic change in every industry. I'll give you a couple of examples.
Yeah.
Telemedicine.
Yeah.
Okay. 5 years ago, even if you had telemedicine, you couldn't sell it.
Yeah.
Outpatients still wanted to go see their doctor. They really didn't want to do the virtual stuff.
Yeah.
COVID suddenly made that, right? If you have an outpatient service, you've got to have telemedicine.
Yeah.
All the ERP vendors were caught flat-footed. They don't have
Yeah.
a telemedicine solution, right?
Yeah.
Take e-commerce. 20% of e-commerce is returned today.
Yeah.
Okay? 20%. What that means is every retailer needs a returns process, sophisticated returns process.
Yeah.
You don't want your associates just saying, "I like Sam, I'll take his item back, but Vinnie is an idiot and I won't take his stuff." You don't want a human involved in that decision whether to take it back or not, right?
Yeah.
And when you take it back, you don't want a human deciding, "Oh, I should restock it, or I should give it to charity, or I should put it as on a surplus sale list or whatever." Let some algorithm do that, right?
Yeah.
And then more importantly, the logistics, the reverse logistics of returns. This should all be one big process.
Yeah.
Every retailer needs it.
Yeah.
How many ERP vendors have that functionality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote a book for SAP where we looked at 8 industries.
Yeah.
And we came up with 100 new apps
Yeah.
that we couldn't have sold 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Another example, EV battery infrastructure management and billing.
Yeah.
5 years ago, you couldn't sell it. Today, every utility is looking for that because
Yeah.
they're getting demand for it. So the industries have changed so much, and the ERP vendors are still selling what they had in the bag 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So they haven't evolved in the vertical area, right?
Yeah.
And then the other big extension that's needed more and more is global geography, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every vendor can say, "Hey, look, I can run 3 or 4 European languages. I can, my scripts can be customized, et cetera, et cetera."
Yeah.
But how many of them have been adjusted to take account of all the new taxes, all the new customs, all the new, the BRICS countries, starting with them, they're coming up with a whole bunch of new regulations
Yeah.
that need to be, complied with.
Yeah.
SAP is one of the few, and they
Yeah.
only cover about 60 countries,
Yeah.
which has invested in internationalizing their functionality. Okay.
Yeah.
Oracle bought NetSuite. NetSuite
Yeah.
had 7 or 8 countries covered.
Yeah.
You'd think by now they would have had 20. They still haven't, right? So ERP vendors have not been keeping up with the rate of change in business. I'm not dreaming this up. This is all happening. You didn't question any of the examples I gave, right? And there are hundreds of those examples. And when you talk to the ERP vendors, they'll say, "Well, we're going to do cloud this and AI, LLM this and all that." Guys, what about the functionality? That's why people buy application software. So, to some extent, Satya is right. SaaS from a Wall Street valuation perspective, it's certainly dead because when you compare it to 16 trillion, and you go, even if you add up Salesforce and Workday and Oracle
Yeah.
and SAP and they don't even amount to a trillion.
Yeah.
You've become insignificant, at least in Wall Street's view. Now,
Yeah.
is Wall Street always right? No. But even if you talk to customers, right, you look at their portfolio,
Yeah.
you go, hi, Vinnie, had 42 marketing SaaS applications.
Yeah.
They're looking to consolidate, right? And they can't find a single provider,
Yeah.
right? When you look at HR, it's the same thing. There's so many different SaaS vendors that do benefits versus
Yeah.
training, versus learning, versus whatever, right? We have ended up with a lot of fragmentation,
Yeah.
and so from that perspective, Satya's right. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't want to hear it. I know people have been really agitated that who the hell is he to say that? To some extent, it's right. He's not an application guy. He's an infrastructure guy. He's an
Yeah.
office productivity guy.
Yeah.
But by God, he's generated 3 trillion in market valuation. He's doing something right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. For the most part, if you look at Microsoft, I guess they should be newer. I don't know how much market share they have in the enterprise application space. They do, but their main driver is not necessarily ERP and CRM. Their main driver is to sell the cloud infrastructure.
Well, one of the best things they did, I wrote about them about 10 years ago in one of my books. And the focus there was how difficult it was for them to justify investment in a data center.
Yeah.
The software company doesn't invest in real estate. They don't, in fact, invest too much in servers and so on. So they had to actually be very, very careful how they presented to Wall Street. They were getting into Azure data centers.
Yeah.
Well, this year, their budget for data center, CapEx budget, is $80 billion.
Yeah.
Okay? So to their credit, they haven't shirked away. They have gone full throttle into that investment. Okay. So that was one smart thing. And then the AI, open AI investment, and now their co-pilots and so on, and their agentic agenda clearly has been very smart.
Yeah. So a couple of points, I guess. I mean, in the last 20, 30 years, the market has changed completely. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I mean, from our perspective, and Gartner is probably going to have very similar view as well. We like to think more from the category perspective. I don't know. When you were at Gartner, you bundled everything under ERP. Some companies do that, but ERP is a very thin slice in general. Even though now a lot of ERP vendors, they are trying to ship as much as possible. And ERP has become almost like enterprise architecture, but you are going to have a lot more in the enterprise architecture. The other comment that you mentioned related to the whole SaaS. So for example, let's say if you look at this more from the category perspective, CRM CX is probably as big category or probably bigger. It solves very different problem. ACM, it's a different problem. You don't want to shove all of that inside ERP because it has a very different data model, very different interaction flows. The kind of problems that they are trying to solve is very different. So consolidation is a very, great idea, but that creates
Wasn't the
friction.
premise. That wasn't the premise under which ERP was sold. Okay, I mean, the ERP concept was going to be an overall enterprise applications framework.
Yeah.
And every ERP vendor used to try to sell suites, right?
Yep.
You got to buy the whole thing, wall to wall, wall to wall.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the premise you sold, then you deliver the wall to wall, right? They haven't delivered the wall to wall.
Yeah.
So now, if you want to break it down, make it composite and so on,
it
makes more sense. People can't afford to buy such a big. You can't eat. How do you eat an elephant? Small piece at a time, right? So you're right, but that's not what the ERP mindset is. They want to sell big suites.
Yeah, but I mean, from the sales and adoption perspective, I guess that's where you create the friction. That even if you could buy, how are you going to migrate all of that to just one system, one category? And in general, I think you made one point related to different industries. Even though you are talking about telemedicine, you are talking about healthcare data, those industries were traditionally very different. I mean, they were never ERP industries to begin with. The only scope of ERP in those industries was primarily for financial reporting, which in my view is not necessarily ERP. I mean, you can probably do that inside your FP&A or the, the accounting software. You probably don't need ERP for that, right? But I mean, if you look at their custom development, the IT spend.
Well, I think you're making a great point, which is we really need to redefine ERP, narrow it down, right? But I tell you what, it'd be very tough for vendors to accept that because they want the big sale, right?
Yep.
If you want the big sale, you better be ready to verticalize and deliver many books of record, not just one or two, right?
Yeah.
So that's the big challenge for the industries going through. They want the big sale, but they haven't delivered the multiple records.
Yeah, so very interesting. So let's talk this more from the analyst perspective a little bit, and maybe touch on your book as well. I know that you have captured this from many different perspectives, and you are going to have very interesting view of what analysts do overall. I don't know how much understanding, at least my listeners, they are primarily users, the customers, the CFOs, the CEOs. Sometimes they trust analyst firms, sometimes they just don't, because it's going to be slightly more generalized insight. It might not be as relevant for them. So maybe touch on the whole analyst world and then talk about your book as well, how these layers sort of come together, I guess.
Yeah, so let me break that into two parts, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I'd spent 5 years at Gartner, and then the last 20 years I've been a blogger and analyst and so on, a small boutique firm, right?
Yeah.
So what's happened in the last 20 years is the big firms, Gartner, Forrester, IDC, and so on, have continued.
Yeah.
Gartner has become very dominant in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's a very fragmented market, a lot of boutique firms and a lot of bloggers, right?
Yeah.
So the market, and the big thing that bloggers have done, which the analyst firms have been slow to adopt, is they've adopted blogging a lot more, social media a lot more.
Yeah.
We have a lot more freedom to write books, create video channels, and so on. I think we have evolved the market quite a bit in terms of content creation and content delivery.
Yeah.
We don't have anywhere near the influence that Gartner does, but we're pushing the market forward.
Yeah.
So the analyst world has definitely been changing the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Mostly for the positive. Okay. Now, my book, it's fiction, like you say. It's called The AI Analyst. And let me give you a quick overview of the plot.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about, how it relates to real life.
Yeah.
It's not completely fiction. So the plot is about a Barry Roman, the CEO of an AI and automation company in Silicon Valley called Polestar. Now, Polestar is like I say, an automation. So they don't just do Gen AI. They have robotics, they have drones. They try to automate. Their definition of vertical is every occupation that the Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks.
Yeah.
About 800 of them. Okay.
Yeah.
So if they go after a fireman opportunity, firehouse opportunity, they don't just try to sell scheduling software. They try to sell thermal eyeglasses. They try to it's very, very multiple STEM disciplines come into play when they define a vertical. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's Barry Roman, the CEO, disappears. Okay. The analyst, who's the main character in the book, is Patrick Brennan.
Yeah.
He works for a research firm called Oxford Research.
Yeah.
And he used to work for Barry. Okay. So, and Oxford is a next generation analyst firm.
Yeah.
They have a co-pilot for creating their version of the Magic Quadrant.
Yeah.
They have a lab that tests different products.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're very savvy, they're very hands-on. Unlike analysts who just write reports, these guys are very, very detail-oriented.
Yeah.
Okay. and in their work with the labs, they have done work with the FBI.
Yeah.
So Patrick gets embedded in the FBI investigation on what happened to Barry Roman.
Yeah.
Did he has he been kidnapped?
Yeah.
Has he been killed?
Yeah.
Or has he absconded?
Yeah.
By the way, the funny thing that in our industry, we think we're so smart and so pious, and we have all these ethical standards and all that. If you look at the FBI's most wanted list,
Yeah.
biggest single category is cyber crime. We're
Cybercrime.
actually an industry of scumbags.
Yeah.
So 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 the plot is around Patrick helping them find the suspects and so on.
Yeah.
And the suspects are Barry's estranged wife, and a disgruntled executive that Barry had fired, Chinese intelligence, the mob, Latin gangs. So there's a whole bunch of suspects that he helps the FBI look at.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the basic plot, and then what happens once they find out what has happened to Barry, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to reveal too much more beyond that. Now, when you step back, you look at it, you go, that's your imagination thing.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not. If you look at what Polestar does,
Yeah.
today we have two very different types of automation. You have
Yeah.
people creating, Salesforce has an agentic solution, Microsoft has an agentic solution, but they're only focusing on software. You've got other firms in Boston, a lot of them are in Boston,
Yeah.
that do a lot of robotics,
Yeah.
right? Robotic limbs, robots that can climb, crawl, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So two different markets. That's coming together. And it's coming together exactly like Polestar has defined. Each occupation has unique skills and needs and all that. Some need machine vision, some need robotic limbs, some
Yeah.
need all that is coming together. Polestar is slightly ahead of the market, but I'm pretty close to reality when I was defining that company. If you look at Oxford Research,
Yeah.
they're ahead of analyst firms, but every analyst firm is trying to create their own co-pilots.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because there's so much data, you might as well, rather than let analysts dream up the magic quadrants, just can you create the first generation one, right? So every step, there's also a bank, characters from a bank,
Yeah.
that I enrolled in the book, and they have learned how to monetize their data. So in fact, one of the plot twists is um, there's a data breach, and people have been stealing their data because their data is so valuable.
Yeah.
So all this is real life, right? Now, would you be able to find any character who looks like Barry or looks like Patrick? I
Yeah.
hope not, because we try to include 4, 5, 6 characters and create a composite of that. But it's not far from what's going on in real life. So it's to me, it's a well-written book. I mean, the reviews have been pretty good, the early reviews, but people are reading it like a thriller, which is meant to be.
Yeah.
But actually, it is, to me, what's happening in enterprise software in the next 2 years. It's my slightly look ahead at what is going to happen. So I would encourage readers not to just look at it as a thriller, but actually at the changes that are coming.
So is it fair to say that it's probably going to be vision for the analyst industry, I guess? Is that what you are trying to communicate through the book?
It is a vision for everybody. It's a vision for vendors. I hope some of them emulate Polestar and say, why are we only creating co-pilots? Why don't we create something for a healthcare professional, which not only helps them with their cognitive requirements, but also their physical requirements, right? I hope some of them decide to go create robotic, um, uh, carriers of materials or across hospitals and stuff like that. So I'm hoping it converges the physical and the intellectual side of technology.
Yeah, so let's go back to the plot a little bit. And it doesn't have to be aligned with the book, but I'm looking to understand the overall political forces, I guess, and how that impacts us. So in this particular
By the
case,
way, to your question about analysts, yes, Oxford is ahead of any analyst firm that I know of because they are looking ahead beyond just IT into other vertical markets and energy markets and so on. So I'd love to see Gartner move into other areas. I mean, if you're only IT centric, often you miss out on some of the major trends that are happening in healthcare, energy, et cetera, et cetera. And same thing with global.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so very interesting. And I mean, Gartner obviously is focused on IT, but there are other firms in the market that are covering the other industries. It's not that those firms don't exist. So everybody's going to have their own focus. I mean, if you look at Gartner, Gartner is just too big right now. They are tracking so many different categories that I don't know how much of that real intel they are going to have from the market perspective, from the field perspective, at least, right? And I mean, your assessment related to, okay, let's create these co-pilots, AI, wonderful. Okay, I love AI. The challenge with AI in my mind right now, it's all trained with internet noise. There's a lot of noise on the internet. You don't necessarily have the field intel. The role that analysts played traditionally was that they had some intel that nobody else had in the market. So now, if you are simply going to parrot back your AI and LLMs, that's not real intel. I mean, there's going to be a real
well,
intel in the market.
so the co-pilot for analysts in the book is called curmudgeon.
Yeah,
Okay, and what it does is it can access Google Gemini, it can access OpenAI, and collect a lot of information on vendors. But in addition, it also taps into Wall Street databases. Okay, it taps into this firm's client query database on what are the questions clients are asking about different vendors, right? And it includes analyst feedback from events they are attending, from briefings they're getting, and so on. So it's got many different perspectives
yeah.
into it. That is unique. I don't think anyone's done that before.
Yeah, no, it's definitely unique. But one of the point that I'm remembering, and I don't know how many companies, especially the ones that are going to have their IP. For example, let's say if you look at Gartner, Gartner's main IP is their research reports. That's how they are making money, right? And that's how 90% of the research firms are going to be. And I don't know, Vinny, whether you notice this or not, but on their reports, they are very clearly mentioning that AI bots should not be getting trained based on this intel because it's not available for them. They are not selling the IP. The bots are not going to have rights to be able to read. So even though you are saying that it was getting trained with many different databases, but when you are going to have the real intel, which has some sort of financial value, I don't know if companies are going to open that up. So the only thing AI bots really have, to be completely honest, is noise. That's not the
Well, first
real
of all,
intel.
they're not selling the IP. This is they're using it themselves to create their research. Okay, so you're right. They will try to prevent customers from using their research, but that horse has already left the barn.
Yeah,
OpenAI is being sued by the New York Times
yeah,
for using their copyrighted IP. Okay, so how do you think ChatGPT has gotten all this information? It didn't create that. It's mined the web and mined, in some cases, it's alleged, even copyrighted and trademarked data. So the data theft is a major. I mean, again, I don't want to give out too much about my book, but
yeah,
data theft is a major part of the plot. Okay,
yeah. So
and
I think
it's happening. It's happening. Whether we like it or not, it's happening.
Yeah, so I think there is a difference between the copyrighted content and anything that gets published over internet is probably copyrighted. But there's a difference between public and private, IP. So when I say public, meaning it has to be available on the internet, versus private IP, meaning which is going to be gated. So the gated is going to have some sort of financial value, because these could be millions and billions and dollars of assets that companies have created, and I don't think that is open. If somebody is stealing that, meaning they have to fill out the form, and then that's how they are going to get.
In
um,
this book, they are stealing it.
they're stealing it. So you believe that?
It's happening. It's rampant. In fact, a theme through the book is a character says, he says, I used to be in the Middle East, and we would joke, who put our oil under their sand? Okay.
Yeah,
And he said, it was usually just being funny, but sometimes you could see there was a hostility to that concept.
yeah,
And he turns around and he says something similar is happening in the corporate world. Who put our data in their data center?
yeah,
I'm entitled to that. Sam, you won't believe how much of that is happening,
yeah, yeah.
or at least being attempted.
So let's go back to the plot, because I want to understand the politics, and again, I don't know if that is clarified in the book or not. But one of the reasons, or one of the factors that the analyst or research firm got involved, and I don't know if they got involved in that incident, is because of his relationship with the CEO, or is it because the kind of work that the research company is doing and because of their data? So maybe clarify a little bit, how these forces play, and what is going to be the ethical and legal responsibility of the research firm versus the vendors versus the customers.
In this particular case, he gets involved particularly because he's loyal to his former employer, right?
Yeah.
Gary used to be his boss. He's been a mentor to him
Okay.
for a long time.
Yeah.
But he would not have been able to be involved unless his firm was already doing work with the FBI.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they couldn't, out of the blue, he couldn't have called the FBI and said, hey, I know the boss, get me involved.
Yeah.
No way, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of both, but we bring out a lot of the data issues, ethical issues that are happening in the whole AI world.
Yeah.
Will analyst firms play a big part in that? I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
But their own data is going to be targeted quite a bit. And you mentioned earlier there are specialist firms who look at energy. I've studied many of their reports. There's automobile
Yeah.
industry specific ones. There's healthcare specific ones, and
Yeah.
so on. Right? They have some unique data that very few other firms do. Right?
Yeah.
There's a character in the book who's a geopolitical advisor.
Yeah.
I mean, he creates all kinds of unique military maneuvers
Yeah.
and demographic trends and so on.
Yeah.
That's not data that's easily available, right? So analyst firms have IP that is going to be targeted. No question.
Yeah, very interesting. So let's go back to your comment related to this whole next gen analyst firm. And I like that concept, but there are some legal and political challenges in that as well. And I don't know how true that is going to be. So, for example, let's say you have a research firm today, and you mentioned that they might not be as informed because they might not be as detail oriented. They might not be as deep in their intel because they are fed the information whatever vendors are willing to feed them, because if they want more, then they would have to sign the NDA. In a lot of cases, that analyst firms, they are not necessarily willing to sign the NDA, right?
Analyst firms have a lot. That's your external view of the analyst firm. I was in there. Okay. In the 5 years I was there,
Yeah.
obviously we got briefed by vendors. Right?
Yeah.
That was one source of information.
Yeah.
But I did what was called client queries.
Yeah.
As part of their subscriptions, this is buying clients, right? Corporate customers.
Yeah.
They were allowed to call unlimited and talk to analysts about any particular topic.
Yeah.
obviously, as an ERP analyst, I would get many of the ERP software and SI questions.
Yeah.
But in those 5 years, I did 10,000 calls.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the amount of data, the market signals you get when you get
Yeah.
that much data?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is unique data that nobody else gets. The vendors would love to get that data.
Yeah.
They have no idea what customers are asking Gartner,
Yeah.
right? So every one of these firms has unique IP
Yeah.
that vendors brief them.
Yeah.
Clearly, they understand features that way.
Yeah.
They get a lot more data directly from customers.
Yeah. So very interesting. So let's say from the customer's perspective, if they are trying to understand, how the analyst firms work. So the calls that you are getting, what is the nature of the inquiry? Is it that, okay, I am the CFO, I am dialing Gartner, and I am trying to understand, okay, this is my business problem. I'm trying to solve this. I'm looking at this quadrant. How am I going to solve or describe, what are
Well,
those?
the most common query would be, we want to look at a next generation ERP, next generation robotic solution,
Yeah.
next generation whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Quite often it would be, help me with a long list
Yeah.
of vendors I should look at.
Yeah.
That would be the first call. The second call would be, okay, Vinnie, we have narrowed it down to 5. That's our short list.
Yeah.
Can you review our RFP for us? So
Yeah.
they would send it to us, and we give them ideas, include more here, include more there, and so on.
Yeah.
When it came down to the final 2, they would call and say, okay, we're down to price negotiations.
Yeah.
Okay? What should we be, give us some ideas what per user pricing should be, or
Yeah.
unique terms we should include, and all that. Okay?
Yeah.
Then they would call after the project started.
Yeah.
Say, Vinnie, we're having problems with the integrator.
Yeah.
What can we do?
Yeah.
So it was a range of questions that
Yeah.
the queries could cover. But the most influential part was the first one, which is,
Yeah.
who should we even have in the long list? Okay. So, I mean, when we added value in each of those queries because their needs were different.
Yeah.
And, the one thing that analysts do that is very different than consulting firms is,
Yeah.
they don't sell long projects. They don't sell a 3-month project to
Yeah.
help you come up with a list of 10 vendors.
Yeah.
It's done in a couple of calls.
Yeah.
So very high value advisory, if you will. So,
Yeah. So very interesting. So describe that a little bit, because some of my listeners might be interested in that. So, for example, let's say, and I don't know, what kind of inquiries are these? So when they are coming to you, are these paid engagements, free engagements, questions? How does that relationship work, I guess?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So let's say if I'm the customer, I'm the CFO, I want to dial, Gartner, or any other analyst firm. So what am I paying? Because obviously it's your time. And I don't know if this is going to be part of the subscription, or is it going to be, hourly basis? How does that relationship work, I guess, from the engagement perspective?
I don't know if Gartner's changed, obviously. I was there 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But it used to usually be on a subscription basis, annual subscriptions.
So the customers would have the subscription, and then they would have some hours included as part of that they can consult with the analyst, I guess.
Yep.
Interesting. And so from your perspective, let's say if I'm buying a cybersecurity software, for $10, I guess, that's probably easy buy. You can probably look at the features and functions, and you can probably consult on that. But generally, when you look at the enterprise software, you would require deeper engagement, I guess. Do the whole requirement analysis. So how would that work, I guess?
You're making a great point. When I was at Gartner, because we were so dominant back then,
Yeah.
my fellow colleagues would say, "Oh, would think we're hot shit," and I would say, "Guys, no, we are only one smart part of the overall evaluation."
Yeah.
Those guys have attorneys that get involved. They have they run RFPs that take 3-4 months.
Yeah.
They do site visits.
Yeah.
They, there's a lot more to an evaluation than just calling us. Right?
Yeah.
And So that's still true. The analyst is I wrote a blog which pissed off a lot of analysts where I said a thousand points of influence, and I described all these other people who get involved in an evaluation who will bring more value, right?
Yeah.
And CIOs call each other, there's peer input and so on. Okay.
Yeah.
So the analyst role is small in the overall scheme of things, but because they have so many data points,
Yeah.
it's almost mandatory that a CFO or CIO will say, make sure and call Gartner and get validation that our list is, long enough, or the final two are not about to go broke or whatever, right? I mean, I, I can come up with 1,000 different scenarios. They would call and say, just make sure, get Gartner's perspective on this.
Yeah, so very interesting. So now let's go back to your vision of these research and analyst firms. And you mentioned that, what they are probably going to be slightly deeper detailed, just because of maybe AI capabilities, they are going to get access to the data. So in the new world, in your vision, I think we are 30 years ahead, Vinnie, right now, right? We have time machine here. So let's say 30 years ahead. So how the role is going to change of everybody, I guess, in the industry? Maybe describe that.
Well, first of all, mine was a fiction book, so we had to be careful. We could have written 600.
You are doing a little bit of forecasting. We are trusting that, Vinnie.
Well, I had a co-author too, so she wrote a lot about the social aspects of Silicon Valley, all the glamour and charity events and all that, right? So we had a 300-page limit. So every topic that I have, you could have easily, like, I had a section on what happens when you enter a prompt in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I actually described the conversion into Unicode characters, from that into vectors. And my editor just basically took those 5 pages and cut it down to one paragraph. He said, Vinnie, this is, in a fiction book, it doesn't make sense to have all this. So when you read the book, I give glimpses of what's coming. It's certainly not meant to be the end all. Call me and we can talk about specific topics, but it's meant to. It would have really slowed the book down to have too much detail on how analyst firms will evolve, or how different segments of the market are going to evolve.
Yeah. So let's go back to your prediction of the ERP market. So from your perspective, let's say if we forecast this for next 10, 15, 20 years, what you see changing is going to be the vertical solutions. That is number one. I think that's what you had mentioned, as well as the geo-specific. Is that your vision?
What I'd like to see, and it's not a prediction, this is more of a almost a request of the industry. Guys, shame on all of us. Okay, we were king of the hill in 2000. Now our valuation is 1/20th of the Magnificent Seven. We are the highest value part of any technology decision. What happened? Why did we allow this to happen? Why are we not doing things that are getting high value? Okay, so I'd love for us to really take a hard look in the mirror and say, we're not delivering enough value. Otherwise, we'd be getting much higher prices and much better valuations and so on. Okay? That's the first thing that I want the industry to do, is quit being pleased with your existing products and revenues and just take a very hard look. And as analysts, you and I need to start beating on these vendors a lot more and go, guys, what happened? Why are people not buying more?
No, fair. I think we have a lot of work to do, I guess, in the industry, and hopefully they are going to listen to us, I guess. It's always interesting.
It's never nice as an analyst to tell a vendor or a group of vendors, guys, you're not doing a good job. You're not you need to do a better job. Everybody wants to hear praise, right? I mean, people will call and say, hey, Vinnie, be nice to me in the quadrant or whatever. It's like, you haven't earned it. Right?
Everybody wants to be number one, Vinnie. Come on. I mean, let's just give them A. The whole class is going to get A.
These are friends of yours, right? You deal with them all the time. It's not easy conversations to have, but I think it's time for us to be, um, um, you know, give some, tough love. That's the right word, tough love. I mean, say, guys, we've been losing market share of the overall spend for a long time, and even that is fragmented across 20, 30 vendors, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, very interesting. So, Vinny, we have some comments. So, I don't know, whom you are going to like. So, we have some. So, we are going to touch on them first, and then you can decide who gets the book, I guess. So, we have the Shard, and he's saying combining ERP, AI, and SaaS is a game changer for businesses. Okay. Streamlined operations, smarter decision making, and unmatched scalability. Okay, so I don't know if you're going to have any sort of insight comments on this. I mean, that's
well, what,
given,
what
I
I would
guess.
say, what I would say is the first generation. I'm going to touch on the second part, the AI, right? So the use cases for generative AI in the last couple of years have mostly been focused on back office, right? So better job descriptions. It's not generative AI, but predictive maintenance is, one use case of AI, right? So we've had these nice back office centric um, use cases. The real value is going to come when we get into the operational areas, right? If you ask a pharmaceutical company what's the highest use case they would like, they'd say, Vinny, drug discovery.
Yeah.
Help me sort through a
Yeah.
whole bunch of promising drugs and prioritize them for me, right?
Yeah.
You ask an oil company, they're going to say, show us the best seismic um, potential oil fields,
Yeah.
right? So these guys are, and these are all operational
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
The ERP vendors have zero access to that data.
Yeah.
So
That's not their business, I guess.
they haven't even tried. They haven't even tried. And if they tried, customers will say, no, you don't know, you don't have the domain expertise, right? So I think AI can be very high value, but the
Yeah.
data is elusive.
Yeah. So I'm going to have one point there on this point, and I don't know if you have read the book called Build to Last from Jim Collins. Phenomenal,
Yep.
phenomenal author. There's always going to be a debate between product and process. 90% of the companies and executives that I know, Vinny, they only care for the product operational insights. But what really matters, if you really want to build something
Sure.
that is going to last, is going to be your processes. It's the
Yep.
assembly line. And that's where ERP vendors sit. So 90% of the companies are misinformed in terms of where they should be focusing on. If you want to build real business, and if you
But
are
Sam,
talking about financial valuation,
how many product areas does ERP influence? I mean, I wrote a case study on 3M. 3M generates thousands of new products every year.
yeah,
Okay? If you ask them, what is unique about that process? How do you generate so much innovation?
yeah,
You're right. It's a very disciplined process.
yeah,
When you ask them, is there a software that enables this? They'll say, well, there are many different pieces of software, but it could be
exactly.
as little as Excel. It could be a workflow tool or
Yeah,
whatever. It's not an ERP product that facilitates that,
no,
right? So when it comes to product-centric areas, I don't think ERP, they may say I have PDM, I have CAD, I have
yeah.
whatever. The reality is they don't really influence product as much as they should.
Yeah, they are not in that market. That's not their focus area. For the most part, if you look at the operating model, the glue, the fabric that creates company, that builds company, that drives company, and that drives companies to for building to last, I guess. I don't know if I'm framing that right. But if you want to do that, then process is where the play is in general for the company. Some companies get it, some don't. Products can be
I
created.
mean, no question. When it comes to financial processes, material management, and all that, ERP processes are clearly hugely important.
Yeah,
But that's only a small part of the enterprise.
yeah,
The
yeah,
enterprise is logistics,
yeah.
product, customer service. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of different areas where they don't play.
Exactly. So we have some more comments. Let's go over them. We have some Vinnie fans here, I guess, in the audience. So I don't know if they are going to get the.
I think how true, Vinny. That one's going to get the book. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so we have Anders, and Anders is saying the suite aspect has two sides. Selling all those modules and engineering all those modules. Do you think there is usually friction between these aspects?
I think that's a great question. That is a great question.
Is he going to get the award then, or what is
No,
that?
no.
No, okay, you haven't
You're
decided.
going to decide. I'm not going to decide. You're going to decide who gets it. There is tension because vendors love to sell it wall to wall, right? It costs them as much time to sell a $500,000 contract versus a $5 million contract. So they want a bigger product suite. Delivering is engineering it and delivering it, it takes a lot more effort. Partly because most vendors don't have the domain expertise.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can say, yes, I will deliver a CPQ capability as part of my order management, but where the hell are they going to be able to come up with the specifications for the CPQ, right?
Yeah.
So engineering tends to be not have enough functional knowledge.
Yeah.
And without the functional knowledge, you can't really deliver unique new functionality. So I'd say, no question, there's a lot of tension. Salespeople can promise anything, delivering it
It's hard.
is hard only because they don't have the scope of skills in the organization.
Yeah, could not agree more. So we have some more books. We need to, comments. We need to get through them quickly. So we have Roger, and you are friends, I guess. So he's saying Vinnie's SAP Nations series were great reads. So I don't know. Again,
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it. Yes, the first book did not make me very popular with SAP because it modeled the SAP ecosystem, and I said it's the 48th largest GDP in the world. It was that big. So I didn't dream it up. I actually modeled it.
And that was the first book, Vinnie. Come on, go easy on yourself. You can't be famous from the first one, I guess. I mean, everybody has to sort of grow over time, right?
Actually, it wasn't my first one. It was first in that series. It wasn't my first book, though.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that clarification. So we have some more comments from Roger. Roger is saying, what inspired you to write a mystery around the drama and power in the tech industry?
Roger, this is a little bit of a long story, but my co-author is ex-Oracle, and I met her when I was at Gartner, and she came to me with the idea. She said, Vinny, you know the analyst world, obviously. I know the technology marketing world and technology executive world. I have a book idea. This was 25 years ago. Okay. But the basic concept, CEO disappears, analyst helps in the search and all that, has stayed the same. Every 5 years, she'd call me up and go, Vinny, we need to do this. We're running out of time. Last November, she said, Vinny, this is it. If you don't do it now, yeah, we're both getting too old to try it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I have some time, and AI is so exciting right now. And California and Florida have changed so much in the last few years. There's a lot of different perspectives we can bring into the book. Okay. So her pestering me is probably the inspiration that I had. It actually took a lot of work because she wanted to write more about the glamour in Silicon Valley. I wanted to write more about how LLMs and GPUs work. And my editors came to us and said, guys, you gotta remove both and stick to the plot.
Yeah.
And have sidebars and all the details. So it took a lot of effort, actually.
book writing is always a lot of effort, and I don't know how you have written 10 in one life. Generally authors say that it takes roughly what, 3-4 years.
I've been able to write every book in 6 months. I mean,
Interesting.
once I get go, once I do a lot of research, but once I do the research, then it's a case of just chiseling down
Yeah,
into a book. But this was imagining things, right?
yeah,
This was fact checking, making sure we weren't showing a particular real character too
yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah,
And because she was coming from a different point of view, she wanted more romance, she wanted more social
yeah,
side of Silicon Valley, and I wanted
yeah,
more of the technology
yeah,
side.
yeah.
And then, we had to bring in crime and all that we didn't. We had to interview FBI agents and so on.
Hmm.
So, very different than interviewing technology practitioners.
Yep, definitely. So we have some more comments, and we need to get them through quickly before we wrap.
Yep.
So Dan is a big fan, Vinnie fan. I know that. He's very open in admitting that, and he's saying that he loved the book. Um, um,
Dan, thank you so much. I'm glad. Please write a review if you liked it.
he will be glad to write. And in fact, I mean, you can use this as a review, I guess, because it's quite review there. Okay, so and they were he's talking about there were some he liked the tips and tricks as well. Okay, so winner now, Vinny, you have to decide. Okay, who's the winner here? Okay, so you are putting on me, right? This is
Sam, thank you for having me on the show. It's your decision. You can take the blame and the credit.
this is crazy. Okay, all right, I take this. So I'm going to develop a very objective yet subjective criteria.
Use an LLM for it.
Exactly. So we are going to do that. So here I was actually counting the number of words. That's what AI is good at, I guess. Which one generated more words when you have the comment. And I think there is going to be a little tie between Roger and Anders. So I don't know, you decide between Roger and Anders, Vinny.
No, I'm not.
Vinny.
This is your privilege.
Take
Sam.
some responsibility. Come on.
No.
Okay, you are not willing to take that. Okay, so I think Roger had the most number of words, so he is going to get the book. Unless he already has, then it would be Anders, but I think Roger.
Roger, get me your address and I will put it in the mail to you, unless you want an e-copy.
All right, congratulations, Roger, for winning that, and thank you so much for joining, Vinny. If somebody wants to reach out to you and whatever plug you have for the book, do you want to share that?
Through LinkedIn is usually the best, or Twitter, and at Deal Architect is my tag. And thank you again, Sam. This has been fun.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Vinny. Always appreciate your time. And guys, if you joined for the first time, this is part of our interview series for which we bring many exciting guests. So in the next few weeks, you are going to see a lot more. Just keep an eye on the announcements that we make for different webinars, and we'd love to see you there. On that note, happy Friday once again. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.